Are you a developer who is using Copilot like Cursor, Windsurf in your day-to-day task? Then this video is gonna be very helpful to you because I have one amazing VS Code extension that is gonna help you in your day-to-day coding task. I am already using this extension in most of my tasks and it has made my life so easier so that I can easily travel and do my remote job from any part of the European country. And in this video, I'm also gonna share you some of the tips and tricks that you can follow to make your life easier as well. So let's get started with this video and I'm pretty sure you will find something insightful from it. So don't forget to subscribe and like this video now itself. The extension that I'm talking about is Augment by Augment Computing. So you can check out augmentcode.com and as soon as you open their website, it will redirect you to a VS Code. So this is the extension that you need to try, which is Augment. The reason of using Augment Code is because it ranks in the top 10 of SWE bench leaderboard. And pretty much when I started using Augment, it was at the top 1, but now again it's in the top 6. In terms of user experience and the code quality that it generates, I can watch for it because I'm using it every single day, right? So now if you see, here is Augment Code, and now this is what we will be installing in our VS Code as well. Once the installation is completed, what you can do is either you can use it on a new project or you can test it out on the existing project, right? So now as you can see on the left hand side, you will see a icon called Augment, and here it will ask you to index code base, right? So if you are starting a new project, probably you will have a empty directory that you need to index. But if you are working on a existing code base which is available on GitHub, let's suppose you want to contribute to open source and you want to use AI to contribute, right? So this is where you can import one of the projects. So as you can see here, I'm using FastEmbed. So FastEmbed basically is an open source framework that helps you for a lightweight embedding conversion, which basically run in Onyx runtime. So now what I will do is I will just clone this repository, and once you clone it, you can just index that particular code base. So now if you see, it will take some time to start the indexing process. So in this indexing process, typically what happens is it's trying to understand the code base's schema and the relationship between the multiple files. And now let me show you some of the cool features that Augment provides, and then we will work on a chatbot where we will build a complete new project just by using Augment without even writing single line of code by yourself. So let me show you some of the features that Augment provides. So in order to show some of the features, the first thing what I need to do is I need to ask a prompt and see what kind of response Augment generates. So I like the UI of Augment and it's pretty much similar to what Microsoft Copilot does, but it's pretty interesting. Use fast embed and check how to create hybrid search RAG approach using text embeddings and sparse embeddings. And if you want Augment to ask for the user feedback, then you can keep it manual. And if you want to keep it auto, that is you want to give flexibility for Augment to generate code by itself and then also create files or edit files, then you can keep it auto, right? So here what I will do is I will disable auto, and I want to see what kind of code changes were done, and then I want to review it manually and then accept it. So both the ways are well enough. If you want to use it manual or auto, that's up to you. Here what I will do is I will just write this prompt and tell create this in a new file called example.py. And now as soon as I ask a question, as you can see, it will take some time, and once it takes some time, it will look into the retrieval engine code bases and then it will generate the response. Now if you see, it has generated the response, but if you look at the retrieval engine, it's trying to use the planning agent. So it plans before it generates the code. So these are the planning steps. And now if you see, it created a new file. So this is the file it has created, and you have multiple planning steps that it undergoes. So this is where agent first thinks what it needs to generate, and then it generates the file. So now if I click on my project folders, if you see, it has created a new file which is example.py. And if I want to show you some of the features of Augment Code, let me click on this thing. So here you have something called as current task list. So now if you click on the task view, as you can see, it is reorganizing your task list, which will add the documentation, test the implementation, create example.py, and then research fast embed capabilities. If you notice, it has updated the task and it is automatically checking what is the status of this, right? So in short, task list will help you manage your task and break down into simple steps, which can later be useful for tracking the status of each task. So this way you will know what task is already covered and what are the test cases that are already covered. So usually you write the code, you write the test cases. So in test, obviously you will need the wider coverage of the code, right? So this way you have more flexibility to use how the Copilot generates the code. So task list is one of my favorite feature that I've checked in the Augment. And the second feature that I want to speak about is easy MCP. So let me show you how you can integrate MCP in Augment. So here you can click on settings, and as soon as you click on settings, you can click on tools. You have the services that you can check, which is GitHub. If not, you can also check easy MCP installation. Here, one of the MCP which I want to use is Context 7. So let me show you what Context 7 does. Context 7 is one of the very useful MCP server if you are using copilots. So what happens is, if you are generating any code, there are different documentation packages you have to manage, whether it is Next.js, Python packages, if you are using LangChain, Llama Index. So there are so many documentation that is updated every single day. So now you want your agent to look at all these latest packages and public releases or the documentation and then generate the response. So the additional context that a LLM is getting is via MCP, that stands for Model Context Protocol. I've already shared 3 videos on our channel on how you can build your own MCP server and then connect it with an MCP agent. So you can check out those videos. So here we will use Context 7, and as I said, Augment has something called as Easy MCP, where most of the MCP server is already configured. You just have to click on add button. So as soon as you click on add button, if there is any environment variable it needs, so you can just give environment variables and then install. But for Context 7, you don't need any environment variable. And the another important MCP server is sequential thinking. Sequential thinking plus task list will help out most of the coverage test cases that you are doing. So the combination of task list, Context 7 and sequential thinking is what you everyone have to use. So here I will just enable sequential thinking, and now if you see, I have two different MCP server. One is Context 7 and one more is sequential thinking. But if you have your own MCP, you can also add that MCP server. So if you see here, you can give a name. I'll just write quadrant, and then here you have a command. So command basically is, let me open MCP server quadrant, and if I check out the documentation, I'll just scroll down. So this is the name of the MCP server and this is the path. So I'll just copy the command, and then there are also different environment variables you need. So based on the MCP server that you use, you can define the environment variables accordingly. If that MCP server doesn't have any environment variable, you can just skip it, right? In my case, I will just be using Context 7 and sequential thinking MCP server, because these two MCP server goes well to well with my task list creation. So these are the two features. One is task list and second is the easy MCP. And the third feature that I want to show is pretty common in most of the copilots or even the agentic frameworks that we have. And this feature is agent mode. And now if I come back to Augment and if I create a new chat, you can also create a new chat. So you can just click on this and then here you can create a new thread, and now you have the flexibility to either ask the question, which is chat, or you can select agent mode. If not, you can also connect a remote agent, right? So this remote agent is also one of the flexibility that Augment provides. But in our case, agent is also pretty much good enough that you want to use. So you can click on agent and ask any task that you need. So these are the three features that I absolutely love when it comes to Augment: the sequential task list, easy MCP, and the agentic mode. And now let's build a completely new chatbot from scratch without even you writing a piece of code, right? So I've created a new project. So let me open that project. I will just open desktop and then I have chatbot with file upload. So now if you look at the code base that I have a folder called backend and then I have a folder called frontend. So there is nothing inside my backend and there is nothing inside my frontend. The only thing that is configured in backend is environment variable. Now what I will do is I will click on augment, and here if you see there are no new threads that was created. So this is completely new thread I want to do. Here I will just define a prompt, and the prompt is very simple. Well, I just want to create a React plus FastAPI chatbot that uses OpenAI LLM client. And then I need to have a nice UI where you can also guide that particular user on how to run the chatbot once it is developed in local, right? So this way, if someone is writing code for the very first time, he will also have the step-by-step guide on how to execute the code that was generated. And the last instruction is I want to have it responsive and the UI should be very moderate. And if in case most of the time I as a user won't be able to write good prompts, right? So this is where you can also enhance your prompt. So if you see, you have enhanced prompt. So now once this is done, what we will do is we will just grab a coffee, get some snacks, and let augment do its magic. And once the magic is done, it's time to run that particular code. So let's go get our coffee and we'll be back shortly. So now if you see, it has enhanced my prompt. I will just run this. Let's go get a coffee, and once the chatbot is back, we'll be back with the UI. All right, the website is ready, and I just want to show you some of the logs and as well as the website that it has created. So as soon as I asked the prompt, if you see, it went into the sequential thinking mode. So this is the MCP that we have used. So if you notice, here you have the MCP icon, right? So you ask a prompt, sequential thinking will check how can I proceed to this particular problem statement, right? And then it will think step by step in sequential order, and then it will plan the steps accordingly. And the interesting part is it will also try to auto correct the particular error message that it is getting. This is again one of the common feature that most of the agent has. And as I also said, the task list is one of the amazing feature that augment has. And if you see, it reorganizes the task list during the runtime itself, which is pretty cool, right? And so there are other things as well. It will create the files on the fly. And if I scroll down, if you see, once the answer was generated, it will also run it in the terminal. So if you see, these are the terminal commands. It's trying to battle test between, okay, what should be the front end endpoint, back end endpoint, and if there is any errors, it is trying to coordinate among itself and then generate the final response, which is actually running on the website, right? So once the entire thing is done, it will tell you, hey, the website is completed, it's running on specific endpoints. So it will also tell you the steps on how you need to set it up. So then if you see the current status where the particular server is running, I just copied this particular URL, and if I check here, this is the UI, which is pretty clean. It's not that much of there is not too much of text, to be honest. And obviously you can configure what you need to give. And it's also what do you call it, it's responsive. So if you see in the mobile view, you have this send button, but if you expand this, you have send. So this is again one of the good thinking that it has done. I'll just ask some of the few prompts. Good morning. And it has also implemented streaming and cache, so that way the response is pretty fast. And have good morning, and then have who is Virat Kohli. And as I said, we also have cache responses. So typically, OpenAI provides cache responses. So I've also implemented that. I actually didn't give that particular command, but it did took by itself. So this is how the UI looks like. Again, if in case you don't like this UI, what you can do is you can take the screenshot of this. You can take the screenshot saying, hey, this is not working fine, you need some kind of layouting, and then come back to augment, click on a new chat. And if you need agent, you can select agent. If you need chat, you can select a chat. I'll click on chat, and I'll click new chat. Let's just upload that particular image. I will upload the image and say the layout of the website is not good, fix it as per the moderate chatbot websites. and then it will try to auto correct the particular layout in the front end, and then it will fix these changes. Since I've not given auto and it's using chat, once the code is generated, it will ask you, do you want to merge this into your main changes or not? So this way the progress is tracked, right? And all your task list is within the place. MCP is also working fine, the sequential thinking. And if in case you're working with any real time documentation or real time framework, you can also use context 7. This is it from the video. I've been traveling a lot, and during this time I've not taken any leaves. So all the traveling that I'm doing so far, I'm traveling and as well as I'm working at the same time. And Augment has been one of the most useful tool in the last 2 months now. So obviously it's not everything AI. Sometimes even I have to write my own logic. I run the code on Collab, and once I run on Collab, I give that logic to Augment so that it can then take care of itself. So since I'm managing both front end, back end, and as well as the AI part for one of the customer, Augment has turned out to be pretty amazing. And yeah, this is it. I just wanted to show some of the cool AI tools that I'm using these days. Augment is one of them, and I will also share some of the important tools that I'm using, which saves lots of my time so that I can travel freely. It's not just traveling, I also get some enough time to explore the city, and I can get that enough time only when my task is completed. And how do I complete my task? Most of them is automated. So don't forget to subscribe now. We'll be sharing more videos for sure. Live sessions are coming up, and the new live session that we will be doing is how Uber build their own AI agent. I will break down their architecture, and we will use relevant tech tech stack so that we can implement or replicate that particular logic. So don't forget to subscribe now and join the Discord server to stay updated on the live sessions. Thank you.